I'm gonna need an energy drink to get through this video. I've already filmed it once and it was raining and windy and that was all you can hear. So we have to talk about 11 books again. First time for you, second time for me. Hopefully that just means I can speed through this video. We will see though. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sam and today's video, we are going to be wrapping up the 11 books that I read in the last half of January. Now I did do a mid-month wrap up this month because somehow I read 25 books in the month of January. I have not done that in so long, so I'm very proud of myself. I had such a good time reading this month and we're kicking off 2025 in a really good mood towards reading, which if you've been on my channel for a little bit, that has not been the case for a while, but I'm enjoying reading again and just having fun. So we have 11 books to talk about. Let's just get right into them. So the first one that we're gonna go over is a reread. Now I did listen to the audiobook for Iron Flame in preparation for Onyx Storm, and I enjoyed this just as much the second time around as I did the first time that I read it. I gave this 4 stars. I think it's just so fun, so fun. I know this one people did not like, so I do have kind of an unpopular opinion with Iron Flame. It's fun, and I really enjoyed it. And then the next book that I read is Someday Someday by Emma Scott. You all know how much I love Emma Scott, and her books are just so deeply emotional and impactful. And this one was no different. This is a male-male romance following Max and Silas. I will highly recommend you please check your trigger warnings for this book. This is following some very serious and sometimes disturbing subject matter. So Max was kicked out of his house when he was a teenager because his parents caught him having sex with a man and they could not accept who he was. So they kicked him out and he was forced to do some pretty unspeakable things in order to survive. And he also picked up a really bad drug habit. But now in present day, he has really gotten himself together and he is a nurse and he has just moved to this new city. He starts going to these AA meetings and I can't remember if it was to be a sponsor or if he's just sort of continuing his sobriety. So he goes to these meetings and that's where he sees Silas. And he immediately can tell that Silas, like, he doesn't want to be there. He's got like sunglasses on and his hood up and he doesn't really talk a lot. So he knows that there's something going on and he wants to sort of get to know him better. So they do have this connection that sort of blooms from these AA meetings. And Silas is okay with sort of Max not knowing too much about him personally, but that all changes when Max gets the opportunity to be an in-home nurse for a very successful businessman. He owns a pharmaceutical company and he is not doing well health-wise. So Max takes this job and that just so happens to be Silas's father. So now it's kind of Silas's worst nightmare. He is liking this guy, but he doesn't really want him in his personal space because Silas just has not accepted really who he is as a person yet. And Max being there is just bringing up all of these feelings for him and he doesn't know what to do with them. And the way that Max is so careful with Silas and the way that he ultimately gets him to accept who he is. And, you know, it's okay to be who you are. People will love you. It was beautiful. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I did take a star off because there are some things going on the business side with Silas and his dad's company, and there's somebody just, I didn't love all of that, and I felt like it really took over the romance at certain points. So I did knock off a star for that, but still highly recommend this book. And then I read, here you are, The One by John Mars. I listened to the audio for this one, and I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, but this feels like more like a 4.5 star. I really freaking enjoyed this book. So this takes place in a world where you can submit your blood, sort of like a DNA test, and find your soulmate, like the person who you are going to connect with on a genetic level. You are destined to be together, and we are following multiple perspectives in this book. You have the owner of or the creator of the app that pairs these people together. You have a woman who, I don't want to give too much away, but you have people in here who some are engaged. You have a man who is in a heterosexual relationship, but then he gets paired with a man. And so it just kind of turns all of these people's lives upside down. And then you're also seeing them and this person who is supposed to be their soulmate. But is it really? I was on the edge of my seat the entire time reading this book. There was not a single perspective that I did not like, not a single storyline that I did not like. And it kept me guessing. I did not see any of these coming in any of the storylines. So this is just a ton of fun. If you're looking for a very fast-paced thriller, pick this one up. You will be entertained for sure. And then the next book that I read, well, I listened to this one, Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. Listen, this is my favorite book in the series so far. I gave this 4.5 stars. I had so much fun with this book. I think Violet really grew as a character. I liked the romance in here. I know some people have kind of had some issues with it, but listen, I like Violet and Zayden together, even though they bicker and they drive some people crazy. I'm here for it, okay? I like it. That's young love, okay? And yeah, I just had a ton of fun. And the ending, what the hell was that ending? I need book 4, but I know she's going to take a little bit more time. She's giving herself more time to write it, and that's fine. We will be here to read it. We're just going to be very impatiently waiting. This next book has sat on my shelves for years, and I'm kicking myself in the butt for not reading this sooner. Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. This is my first Fredrik Backman book, and honestly, this is kind of unlike anything that I have read before. And I have noticed when people talk about this book, they are very vague, and that is for a reason. So when you read the cover of this book, you're like, okay, you think it's going to be about one thing, and then it truly just takes you on a journey. So basically you have a bank robbery gone wrong that then turns into a hostage situation in an apartment that people are looking to buy. And you follow all of the perspectives of the people that are in this apartment, but also you are getting them after they are released from this apartment and they are being interrogated by the police. And at first, you're like, what are these people doing? Why are they acting this way? What is going on? But then you really get into the meat of the story. And when it finally clicks with you, you're like, oh, okay. I tabbed this. I did physically read this. There were some quotes in here that are just so deeply relatable. And like some of the people in here, they're a little like eccentric, but still at its core, it's so relatable and it's complex. And it really just takes the worst thing that you have done, the worst choice that you have ever made in your life, and it turns it into like this, not so much like, oh my gosh, you're a bad person, but like what led you to have to make that decision. And I just truly enjoyed this book. I could not stop reading it. I gave it 4 stars though, because I do feel in the middle of the book, it was kind of a little bit meandering to me. So I didn't totally love that, but overall the message of the story, I really enjoyed it, and I need to read more from Frederick Bachman. And much like Anxious People, this book is definitely more than meets the eye. This is The Wedding People, and I did listen to this one on audio. I think the audiobook was done very well. I gave this one 4 stars, but I do feel like even for Anxious People, I could probably bump both of these up to a 4.5 star. I think I'm being maybe just a little bit too harsh. So in this book, we are following Phoebe, and Phoebe is going to an inn in Rhode Island that she has always wanted to go to. And when she gets there, she realizes that she is the only person who is at this inn who is not there specifically for a wedding. The whole venue was supposed to be rented out just for this wedding and the people who are attending, but somehow Phoebe slipped through the cracks. And she meets the bride when she gets there, and the bride is really confused. You know, if you're not here for the wedding, how did you get a room here? But then she ends up telling the bride just straight up, I'm here to kill myself. And the bride immediately is like, no, you're not. You're not doing that. You are not going to ruin my wedding. And from then on, the bride sort of has just stormed into Phoebe's life. She really sits and talks to her about, like, just, it starts out just as like her life and the drama and the tea about everything going on in the family and the people who are at the wedding. And Phoebe is like, why are you telling me this? But also it's taking her mind off of her life. And then she starts getting invited to all these events for the wedding, and eventually she actually does attend the wedding. And so you're slowly seeing Phoebe's kind of will to live come back. And this book, while it does center around a woman who is wanting to take her life, there are very humorous moments in here. The way that this was written was so beautiful. It's also deeply relatable, and just, it's really takes on a dark time in someone's life and then shows you how you can overcome that and what that looks like. So I did really enjoy this. The reason that this isn't a perfect 5 stars, and this is going to be very personal to me, is because I like my stories wrapped up in a pretty bow at the end. And we did not get that. And I understand that this is a book where it's more about the journey than the outcome. I know that, but I still wanted more. So that's my reasoning for this not being a full 5 stars. I still highly recommend this book. It is so good, so wonderfully done. So the next 4 books I'm going to try to speed through because I did just do a reading vlog on them. It is my Read It or Unhaul It vlog. I will try to remember to link it down below or at the end of the video somewhere. It'll be there. So I don't want to go too much into detail about these books because you can find full thoughts there. So the first book is Long Time Gone by Charlie Donnelly. This is my first book by Charlie Donnelly, and it will not be my last. Now, at the beginning of this book, Sloane has submitted her DNA to sort of a site where it finds your family. I cannot for the life of me remember what those sites are called. It's neither here nor there. But when she gets her results back, she finds out that she is Charlotte, a little girl who has been missing since 1995. And not only is she missing, her parents have been missing as well since 1995. So this is her journey to find out who she is, what happened to her, what happened to her parents. She's also getting to know her family. And this one definitely kept me on the edge of my seat. I had to keep reading this. I wanted to know what was going on. 4 stars, very enjoyable. And then I read Jade City by Fonda Lee. This is book 1 in the Greenbone saga. I unfortunately did not like this book. I didn't hate it, but I just didn't love it. This is following the Call family, who they are the No Peak clan. And then you have the Mountain, who is their rivaling sort of mafia family-esque type thing. I know a lot of people refer to this as like The Godfather, but like make it fantasy. I've never seen The Godfather, so I don't know. I've read a lot of mafia romance books though, so I know about warring families. There's a lot at stake in this book, a lot of tension, because you have the Mountain, who is trying to sort of infiltrate and push their way into the No Peak territory. And you would think that this is character driven. So you'd think that I would like the characters and be connected to the characters, and I just wasn't. That was my biggest issue in this book. I did not care about the characters. And I don't know why. I really don't know why. I never connected to them. I never connected to the story. But yeah, I objectively can see why people love this book, and it was well written. I just didn't connect to the story or the characters. So 3 stars, will not continue the series. The next book that I read is Insomnia by Sarah Penborough. I listened to this one on audio, and I gave this one 4 stars. So we are following Emma, who is a week out from her 40th birthday, and she has kind of dreaded that for her entire life, because when she was young and her mother was a week out from her 40th birthday, things in her life really took a turn. Her mother started to go crazy. She acted very weird, kept repeating these numbers. It was just a very crazy time in Emma's life. And there is also something in her family with the second-born child where there's just something a little weird about them. And Emma is the second-born child. And so when Emma's older sister Phoebe comes back into the picture, some very coincidental things start happening, and Emma is left wondering, like, are these things, is this just someone trying to mess with me? Am I going crazy? Like, what is truly happening? But in the back of her mind, she still has, well, this is the same thing that happened to my mother, and my mother went crazy. And this was really good. It was a ride, and I did not see the twist coming at the end. Never in a million years would have guessed that twist. And the last book that I read for that vlog is The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owen. I also gave this 4 stars. I listened to this on audio, and I flew through this in, like, I think a day. And this is a big book. I just had a ton of fun reading this book. It's more urban fantasy than fantasy. It's set in San Francisco, and you have all of the, like, Greek gods. So you have, I believe our heroine's name is Lyra, but I can't remember for sure. I think it's Lyra. And then Hades is the love interest in here. Now, in this world, you have these games that each god will choose a human to enter into these games. And if their human wins, the god will be the next ruling god for 100 years. And this is the first time in years that Hades has entered into, or it might be the first time ever, that Hades has entered into these games. And his champion, his human, is Lyra. And so you were following Lyra as she tries to navigate all these very deadly, situations that she's put in order to try and win these games, because the gods will grant you a favor if you win for them. So she has her reasonings for doing it. And then Hades, you're trying to figure out, like, why did you choose Lyra? What is going on with you? You know he has an ulterior motive, but he's just very tricky with what he says and how he goes about things. But I really enjoyed this. It was so fun. And I'm really surprised that more people are not talking about this book. It's fun. I mean, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it's a good time. And the last book that I'm going to talk about in this wrap-up is The Consequence of Falling by Claire Contreras. I also gave this book 4 stars. I listened to this one on audio, and we are following Presley and Nathaniel. Now, the beginning of this book has quite a few time jumps because you meet Presley and Nathaniel when they are both young. Presley is in high school, Nathaniel is first or second year in college. Nathaniel is working for Presley's dad. Her dad owns a brewery, and so Nathaniel starts working for him at a very young age. And he goes to pick her up from school one day from practice, and they do not get off on the right foot. And that sort of sets the tone for the next couple years of their relationship. They end up going to the same college, and they sort of run in the same crowd. They have mutual friends, and they go to the same parties, but it's always them, like, bickering back and forth. There is an underlying attraction there, though. You can definitely feel that. But then in present day, Presley is now divorced and she is going to finally work for her dad. But her dad tells her, well, we have a new business partner. And that new business partner just so happens to be Nathaniel. So essentially, Nathaniel is now your boss. And that doesn't go over very well with Presley. She's going through a divorce, and then she has this guy who they don't really get along. They bicker all the time, and she's like, I do not need this. I don't need this. But the two of them slowly get into a groove and realize that their relationship was sort of more than meets the eye the whole time. They've had like deeper feelings about each other the whole time. You can sort of tell that they've had a fondness, even though, yeah, they don't get along. They fight like cats and dogs, but there's still something there. And they finally decide to act on it. And I loved the tension in this book. I really loved Nathaniel and Presley's dad's relationship, what Nathaniel, sort of his reasoning behind everything, and why Presley's dad took Nathaniel under his wing. I loved that relationship. And then I really loved Presley and her dad's relationship. So I enjoyed the heck out of this book. Again, 4 stars. Highly recommend it. So that is all for my wrap up. Please let me know in the comments down below your favorite read of January. Have you read any of these books? Did you like them? Let me know. If you have made it to this point in the video and you'd like to let me know, leave me a sunshine emoji because the sun is out. It's so pretty. Finally, it's been gloomy and rainy. So we have some sun. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.